and I run it, and I run it, and I run it, and I run it, that's I run it.
Yo, what's up, Mirror Man? Paul Brisske, what's up with you, man?
What's going on? How's it going?
Good, good. So how's your day so far?
So far, pretty chill. I'm going to Europe on Friday, and we just booked like all of our trains and hotels and stuff like that. So it's been an expensive morning, but feels good to get it all figured out. You know.
What do you have going on over in Europe?
Just visiting family and friends, and just kind of traveling.
Have you been before?
I've been one time on a family trip, but now this time me and my fiance are going, so it's a little more. I don't have my parents, you know, with me helping cover the cost, so it's a lot more expensive when you go without your parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited.
So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do, everything, you know, a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. So I do a multitude of things. My work is I edit SteveO's YouTube videos, his podcast. I'm on his podcast called The Wild Ride, and I tour with him a little bit as well. So that's like my job. And then I also make music, and I make art. My group is called That Kid Is You, my music group with my best friend JC. And right now we're releasing one song every Friday for the next like few months or so. We have a bunch of songs stacked up, so we're starting to put those out, which is exciting. And so, yeah, stay tuned for all that.
When did you first start getting into like making music and doing music?
Music was really my first thing. I started playing drums in 3rd grade, and I was like a drummer. I never made videos or anything really till after college. So music was always just kind of my thing. And then at some point, maybe 7 or so years ago, I started producing my own music. You know, like I got one of these things and some of that, whatever, and that's been like a kind of a new angle, because for the longest time I was just the drummer. Yeah. So it's like I'm not doing everything by myself, like I'm part of the ensemble, but now that I'm producing, I'm able to kind of do a lot more on my own, which is fun.
When would you say you started taking music like serious?
Probably like 5-6 years ago. JC and I were living together, and we would just always make music. Like that's, you know, some people play video games, some people go play basketball. Like us hanging out was just making music. Like that's kind of what we did. So
it was kind of like a hobby of yours?
Yeah, it was just a hobby, and it was like just our favorite thing to do. Like it's Friday night, like let's go get some beers and let's make some music, you know, like so. And then after a while, we just were like looking at what we made. We were like, oh man, we have like 6 pretty good songs here. So why don't we put out this project together? JC was already a rapper under the name Jay Gatsby, which he's got some stuff out you can see under that name. And I had put out like a small project on my own, but this was our first thing, like let's put this out together. We'll be like a duo. And we ended up landing on the name That Kid Is You, and we put out this like 6-song EP. And probably since then it's been like more serious, and then it just kind of, we get a little more serious as each day comes, you know. So
what kind of like influenced you and made you want to like do drums in the beginning, or like even do music? Like
probably, I mean, just growing up, like my dad was a big fan of like The Who and the Beatles and like Led Zeppelin. My mom too. Like my parents, just there's always music around. So like, and I don't know, I was just always drawn to the drummer, like focused on the drummer. Like Keith Moon, the drummer of The Who, was like my hero when I was a kid for whatever reason. I don't know. So when it came time to like, you know, because in school around like 4th grade or whatever, it's like band is starting. So if you're interested in band, you can try out a few instruments and stuff. And like I just went right to the drums, and yeah, I don't know. I was just always drawn to them. So then I was in bands and stuff in high school, and like I was in, you know, band also, and I just always really liked it. I don't know.
So what would you say was people's like reaction when you first started like making music? Were people like supportive, shocked, or like
supportive? I guess because I was like rapping and singing a little bit too, which was surprising to people because I was always just the drummer, you know. So like seeing me, I think a little more of like a front-facing role was kind of surprising, I think. But overall, well received. I think it tracked. Like I was always the guy who was like in a band or doing this or but I was always just a drummer. But still, like the fact that I'm doing music, I think isn't surprising anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, to see me like rapping and singing and like dancing goofy in like a music video maybe would surprise some people.
So are you the one who kind of like writes the lyrics, or do you and your friend kind of like collab on writing?
We collab on really everything. He's more the lyricist than me. Like, he's been a rapper for a long time. That's actually how we met. I was his drummer when he did a tour back in like 2009 or 10. And so that was how we first met. He was a rapper, I was his drummer. And then, so anyway, he's definitely more the lyricist, and I'm sort of more the producer. Like, I kind of produce most of it, he's most of the lyrics, and then, you know, we both kind of weave in there a little bit.
So what would you say is like your mindset going into the studio, like when you're about to make a song, like what do you kind of think about what goes into that?
The mindset is like nothing. Zero expectation, zero plan. I hate going into recording being like, let's make an R&B song, or like, let's make this. Because then you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is cool, but like, is this an R&B song? You know, I thought we were making R&B songs. Like, that's the wrong attitude. I feel like just start making stuff. So when we start working, it's like, what do we start with? And then we'll just pick something. Maybe the ukulele, the bass, the piano, maybe clapping, maybe some weird sample someone recorded on their phone, and just kind of build it from there and just like see where it goes. And if it's no good, like move on to the next one, you know. But it's like we kind of record like a playground almost. We just kind of let it see where it goes, kind of a thing.
So you don't really like box yourself into like a genre or anything like that, or?
No, not at all. Like, and it's frustrating sometimes working with other people, because it's like people are trying to kind of keep it in a box and make it have a certain sound, and then a lot of thinking, you know. A lot of people like to do a lot of thinking while recording, like, what should we? But like, it's like in the time you thought, like we could have tried 6 different things, and worst case we'll mute what we, you know, if we don't like the piano part, we'll just mute it. Yeah, but like just record it, you know, like don't think about it, just do it. So, but yeah, they're definitely, and luckily JC is the same way. Like no box, no. Maybe he'll write an acoustic song, great. Maybe we'll do some hardcore rap sounding song, great. You know.
So how many instruments do you actually like play?
Drums is the only thing I'm actually like good at.
Yeah.
Like I would, like if I go to a jam, I'll play the drums. You know, piano, and like everything else I can do good enough to loop it. You know, so like I can play it once. Pretty good, and then we'll loop that. So for that, I could, you know, bass, guitar, piano. But like, you don't want me in your band playing guitar or playing piano. But if we're writing a song and I just got to find like 3 notes that sound kind of cool on guitar and just play them, and then we can loop it, I can do that. So I'm more of a studio guy. But drums is probably the thing I'm actually like pretty good at.
Do you remember the first song you ever made?
Yeah, I do. It was in school, because I went to a school called Full Sail in Orlando, Florida. Yeah. It's like, I was in the audio recording program, and there was just an assignment, like make a song. And it was like, you know, not everyone there is even necessarily a musician. It's just like, just to know the program and know kind of what you're doing, you go home and make a song. So I do remember, I remember that song actually, yeah, and I still have it somewhere. It was terrible, obviously, but I remember it, yeah.
So Full Sail was at college?
That was college for me. Yeah.
Would you say that college kind of helped you musically, or would you say it's not really like necessary in the industry? Or?
Both. It did help me, especially now that I'm producing more. Like there are things I learned in school that I'm now applying, but when people ask me advice, like if they should go, I say no. Like it's so expensive and you don't need it. There's nothing you can learn at Full Sail that you can't learn on YouTube. And if you really want to like really get into something, like let's say your dream is to work at a recording studio, find a recording studio and give them like $5,000 and just say like, let me just hang out and just kind of show me stuff. And like after 6 months, you'll know more than you would 2 years at school, and maybe you'll even have a job, you'll have connections, you'll actually be working, and you saved like, you know, $50,000, you know, so it's, yeah, I think if you want to get into music or film, going to school is not necessary. Now, having said that, I'm glad I went because I met so many people, and it's hard to imagine my life at this point if I didn't go. But, you know, if you're like 18 years old, just out of high school, asking me if you should go, I usually tell people no. Unless you have like a ton of money and like the money's no big deal. But even then, you'll probably be better off just
Learning on your own.
Learning on your own and like just start working. Like, well, you know, why fuck around in school for 2 years? So
do they teach you how to like read music or anything in school? Or?
No, so that school is more like the technical side,
Yeah.
recording, you know, live sound, like kind of more the technical side of things. It's not actual music performance or anything like that. All of that stuff I sort of learned like through high school, being in band and jazz band and stuff. But yeah, Full Sail is more the technical side. They have like film, graphic design, audio engineering, live sound, things like that.
So what would you say keeps you like motivated to keep doing music and keep pursuing like, you know?
I mean, it's just that I like doing it. It's probably what keeps me the most motivated. Like, it's fun, you know? And, like, I think even if I had $1 billion, I'd still make music. It's my favorite thing to do, you know? So, and then as far as, like, pursuing a career and, like, you know, trying to make it in music, I guess it's just, like, this just blind belief in myself that I can do it, you know? And I don't know. I've always just had this weird confidence that everything will shake out the way I want it to. And so I just kind of know that if I just keep going and like just even if I move forward one step each day, like I'm at least still on my path to get there.
Still progressing.
Yes, I'm still progressing. Like as long as I'm not standing still, I feel like good at the end of the day. So it's like I'll wake up, I'll make like a to-do list, and like if I'm going to bed, like cool, that moved forward, I progressed with that, like I can sleep good at night.
Do you have a favorite or like most memorable event or concert you've done?
That I've performed at?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Yeah, a few stand out. Right now, JC, my partner from That Kid Is You, lives in a town in Mexico, like a beach town in Mexico. And he was like, bro, we're throwing this huge party, like come down, we'll perform. And so I just flew down for the weekend, and it was just like, again, just to kind of that blind faith, like this will work out. And like 60 people showed up to this party, and it was like the most fun I think I've ever had performing a show. And so that really sticks out. Plus, like, I'm in this beautiful paradise, you know, so after the show, we went out for drinks. I ended up, like, laying on the beach, you know, splashing in the water and stuff. It was, like, the best. I mean, other than that, there's a number. Like, I used to tour a little bit in bands and stuff. And, like, so some of just the, like I did Warped Tour and stuff,
yeah. So
like there was some cool times performing on Warped Tour where it's just like, wow, you know, this is cool, you know, but only just because of the fact that like I'm on Warped Tour, like I'm on tour, I'm in a band. It was like this was kind of my dream, was to be in a touring band, and here I am, you know. But yeah, that show in Mexico probably stands out as the most fun.
Do you remember your first performance that you had?
Like not a school performance?
Yeah, like actual like.
Yeah.
What was the crowd's kind of like reaction when it came out? What was?
Well, so, I mean, I remember my first performance as a drummer.
Yeah.
Would have been in high school. My high school did this thing called Courtyard Jam, which was like all the kids that have like a band can just perform at this, you know. There was a courtyard in the middle of my school. It was Courtyard Jam. No, you know what? Before that, actually, my parents used to host this party in our backyard called Jam and Bread. And it was like our own little music festival. Like, we set up a stage, rented like all the equipment, invited everybody over, and like all of my friends and family members that have bands performed. And like my dad's high school band reunited for it, and me and my friends performed there. So that would have been my first show, which I do I'm trying to think, like, do I remember it or do I just remember the videos of it?
Yeah.
But I think I have actual memories from that day. And then, as like a rapper, singer, whatever, like front person, my first show. That I don't know. You know, I used to sometimes rap while playing the drums, so I kind of like eased into it. I was just a drummer, then I would be a drummer with a microphone a little bit, and then now I'm like just standing out there performing. I don't know what my first show like that was, but we used to be like kind of have a residency at this local comedy show at Ham and Eggs, downtown LA. And we performed there like every Wednesday for a while. And that was kind of where I like got a little more comfortable. Because, you know, do you play music or instruments or anything?
No.
So like being a drummer, it's not that scary. Because like I'm kind of hiding behind this drum set, you know, versus like being the singer, you're just standing there, there's nothing in between you and everybody. It's a lot more like intimidating. And so that's kind of where I think I got a little more comfortable just standing there and like in front of people. And like, yeah, and I think it's just been a growing, like, getting more comfortable standing in front of people has kind of been a journey.
Yeah.
You know?
So what have you noticed, like, progression-wise from when you first started to, like, now, like, to being on Warped Tour and everything you're doing now, like, what's the progressions that you've noticed?
I guess you kind of notice the things you get used to. Like, my band in college, I remember our first show was just a house party, like, on Halloween. But it was, like, the biggest deal to me.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh my God, like, we're playing a show in front of people, like, this is such a big deal. But now, like, to do that would not be such a big deal. You know, it's like, now to perform in front of, like, hundreds of people wouldn't even really feel like that. I wouldn't really even necessarily get that nervous. I'd be excited. I'm always excited, but it's kind of like, you notice, like, oh wow, like, I'm kind of used to this now. Or, like, we've kind of flown around the world a few times to, like, record and do things, and, like, we recorded an album in Argentina. And I remember the first time we went to Argentina, I was just, like, almost in shock, like, oh my God, I traveled to Argentina to record music, like, and then I was just there, like a month ago, and it was just kind of felt like not that big of a deal, like, yeah, like, I'm in Argentina, you know, whatever. So, like, I think that's where I notice the progress is just, like, what I'm sort of, what I get used to, you know? Like, maybe for you, the first show was like, oh my God, you know?
Yeah.
But now it's pretty like, yeah, it's just another interview, another show, you know? Like, you get kind of used to it. So, and then I guess my producing, I notice, is better. Like, I'm better, I'm quicker. I can make something a little cooler. If I listen to my old music, it's like, I can hear a difference. Definitely, there's progress, for sure.
So how did you end up meeting SteveO and getting, you know, like, linked up with him and everything?
So that was, I used to work for these guys, the Dudesons. They're like the Finnish Jackass. They actually had a show on MTV for a season called The Dudesons in America. And they've been in, like, Viva La Bam, and they were in Jackass 3D as well. Like, when Knoxville climbed the pine tree and they sawed it down, that was with the Dudesons. But anyway, so I kind of randomly got a job editing for them, for their YouTube channel. JC worked there too, and so did our other best friend Joey. So, like, the three of us were just, like, helping run this channel for these Finnish dudes. And we got really close with them. I love those guys. And so they were also running a production company and trying to get a show sold in the US. And we did sell a show which was called Ultimate Expedition, which was like mountain climbing for the stars. Like, we took 8 celebrities and YouTubers to Peru, and it was like, taught them how to climb a mountain, and basically, like, the goal is just to get somebody to the summit of this mountain. And SteveO was a cast member on that show. So I met him there, and it was kind of my job, or it was my job, to create all the YouTube content around the show. Like, there was all this extra YouTube content, because the show was on YouTube Red, which was YouTube's attempt at having like a Netflix type of thing. I don't even know if it still exists, but so anyway, I was working, like, pretty closely with SteveO on, like, his YouTube videos for that show. And so then fast forward like a year later, and I had quit working for the Dudesons just because, like, you need change, you know? Like, I like to kind of, like, close a chapter and move on to what's next. So I was just in between chapters, and I texted Steve because I had his number, and was like, hey, I'm available if you need an editor. And he was like, dude, I was just saying yesterday I need an editor. Like, can you come over tomorrow? And I went, and like, I'm just still working for him 4 years later.
Yeah.
And it's cool. And it's like progressed too, because then we started the podcast. Like after I worked for him for like 2 years, we started the podcast. And then I started touring with him. So it's kind of just like grown and grown over time too, which has been cool because it's like always changing. And it's a great job because he's like the nicest, best dude you could ever work for. Like I'll tell him like, dude, I'm going to Argentina for like 2 weeks. And he's like, okay, like we'll figure it out. And now I'm pretty much have been remote all summer because I've been traveling so much. And he's just been so cool to like work with me on that. And he knows like my dreams are kind of like big, and and I want to, like, music is my dream, like, and he knows that, and he's like just the most supportive dude ever. It's great.
Has he ever tried to get you to participate in any like stunts or anything like that, or? Not
quite. Like the Dudesons, yeah. With the Dudesons, we kind of got pulled into doing a lot of videos, and like I did all sorts of, like, I got bit by a baby alligator, I got pepper sprayed, I broke a bottle on my head, like we were eating spicy shit all the time. Like that channel, that was my like more my jackass kind of like experience. Yeah. But with Steve, no, not quite. He's not like he's not trying to risk other people's safety.
He's not a peer pressure type.
He's not a peer pressure type. And plus someone's got to hold the camera to film him. He's like this is my show, like in the coolest way. But he's, like he wants to be the guy doing the crazy shit. So anyway, yeah, he's never pressured me. And people ask me too, like, will he like hit you in the nuts or like randomly like explode something like to surprise you? Like he's not that kind of guy either. So it's pretty laid back. We did though go to South Africa one time, and he was like, yeah, we're gonna do this like ride along with a animal rights organization to try and stop poachers from selling animals. And then we get there, and it turns out the local police are like pulled out because they found out SteveO is part of it, and he's like filming it for his YouTube channel. So they're like, we don't want to be a part of that. But the animal rights organization is like, we're still going to do it, but we need your guys' help to like apprehend these suspects. Yeah. So we're like on a sting operation in Johannesburg. Like me and Steve are in a car, and then our two other friends are in a car, and with animal rights people. And these people are selling like tortoises on the side of the road. And like, so, but I don't know, that was just like a crazy trip. But luckily, mine and Steve's car, like, the people selling, like the poachers, recognized the animal rights guy we were with, and they like immediately like just backed off. But our other friends in their car, like they tried to bust this dude. Like our buddy got out and like tried to grab this guy, and like there was a tussle. Like it was insane. And we were like, what are we doing? Like, who do we think we are that we're gonna like apprehend poachers in Johannesburg? Like we're just so lucky that nobody got stabbed or like, I don't know, like it was a trip. But so that's probably like the most risk I've been involved in around Steve. And on that same trip we went bungee jumping, which like I think Steve was more scared than I was. Like he hates that kind of shit. But we did do that together. But yeah, anyway, he's not a peer pressure type of guy.
Do you have a favorite like SteveO moment?
I mean, that one was big, to be honest. Like, and the bungee jumping was crazy because I can stand on the top of the tallest building, but like I wouldn't jump off of like an 8-foot wall.
Was that your first experience?
Bungee jumping? Yeah, I've never done that. Yeah. And like, there's a video of it, like, you'd like to like kind of gracefully jump out. I sort of just like fall and just like, oh. It was so scary. And I almost had a panic attack on the way there. Like I was freaking out. So I guess probably I was more scared than Steve because he didn't have a panic attack. But we also took this trip to Alaska he'll do like a few times a year, like a surf trip, and being just the raddest, coolest dude, like he just will bring like 3-4 friends with, kind of pay for like flights and hotels, and then like everyone will take up care of like dinners and stuff like that. But he booked this boat in Alaska for 3 nights, and that was super cool because it was like we lived on this boat for 3 days. So like you wake up on the boat, you sleep on the boat, you're on the boat, and the boat takes people to different like surf breaks that you can only get to by boat because the land is like so treacherous to even get to that beach. And then we're like, man, it'd be so cool if we saw like a glacier fall into the water, you know, wouldn't that be cool? And then he's like, well, there's this, you know, the captain was like, there's this cool glacier wall I'll take you to, like it's really beautiful. So we get in this cove and there's glaciers everywhere, and then all of a sudden we hear this like rumbling, and I turn the camera over and the fucking thing falls in the water, and I was like, what? And then this whole cove filled with just chunks of ice, like, and just swarmed around the boat. So like it was total clear water when we got there. Now it's just like snowy, icy water. And I don't know, that was the fucking coolest thing. And then we swam in it a little bit, which was like super cold, which felt good, you know. I like doing shit like that. But that trip in general was crazy. Like I've never slept on a boat overnight, and then, you know, we'd see porpoises, whales, sea lions, otters, like everything you'd kind of want to see. It was a really, really rad trip.
So earlier you said you're going to be dropping music every Friday, right? So what else do you have like planned musically like for the rest of the year?
So yeah, we've got That Kid Is You is putting out those songs every Friday, and that'll go through September. We'll also be going back to Argentina early October to play some shows, and hopefully play this big like local festival in Buenos Aires. And then That Kid Is You is also going to record in Italy in January. And so we're really looking forward to that, because like, at least for me, the recording is the most fun. Like that's my favorite part. And so it'll be fun to just kind of start back at zero and like, you know, make something. And that's how we recorded this last album too. We didn't like write anything before we went to Argentina. We just went and just made it up when we got there. Yeah. And then other than that, my fiance Christine and I have a music group as well called the Modern Mystics, and we're going to be releasing some songs probably in the fall for that, which I'm really excited about. I've got some songs of my own that I'll hopefully be releasing by like spring. They just kind of have to be like mixed, and I don't know. It's like my least priority, so it just keeps getting pushed back, you know. But yeah, and then we'll see where it goes from there. We're trying to get on South by Southwest with That Kid Is You, and obviously more, you know, more shows and more tours hopefully. But to be like recording again is really the thing I'm most excited about.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned so far in the industry?
The biggest lesson came when I was working on that show, Ultimate Expedition, because we had all of these like experts. I was no expert. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Yeah. But all these people who had worked on like Amazing Race and Survivor and like big shows, and working with them, I realized they don't know what they're doing either. Like they're like, oh, hopefully this works. Like I don't know. We don't like. This is a shit show. Like it just felt like, oh, like nobody knows what they're doing. And like the guys at YouTube who like bought the show, like they don't know what they're doing. You know, like so just kind of realizing like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing, but like nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's just kind of like feels like an imposter. Everybody just kind of is like just doing their best to survive, and that was just like a comforting feeling. Because,
so would you say like a lot of people in the industry kind of like just wing it? Like
yeah, like everyone's just kind of winging it and like, you know, just hoping for the best, you know, like. Yeah, nobody, at least in my experience, nobody quite really knows. Like you picture like, oh, the guy who's running Paramount, he probably wakes up calm, drinks his